Abby noticed her father doing something out of the ordinary, heading out to the cabin late at night. Like any curious 12-year-old, she decided to approach him and ask him what he was doing. However, as she approached the cabin, her father called her back and behaved suspiciously. She was clearly not allowed inside, but why? This piqued her curiosity and solidified her decision to take a look inside. What secret was her father hiding that she would later regret? She felt she had to find out more. Normally, she was not allowed to enter the shed. However, she was free to enter and leave the shed only when she needed tools, such as a shovel or a rake. It was quite strange. Abby's father strictly forbade her from stepping into the shed. It seemed suspicious. Therefore, she suspected that her father was hiding something and was very curious to know what it was. What kind of secret could it be? Before we continue, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and click the notification bell for more amazing stories. Emily was frozen. Should she go in? There was something there that she didn't immediately understand. At that moment, all she could do was scream and break down in tears. But what was her father doing in the shed? Why did he keep it a secret? She had normal neighbors. She studied in a normal school with typical classmates. But what she was trying to discover about her father was not normal, or rather, quite strange. One night, while Abby was watching TV in the living room, she heard the back door slam. She carefully rose from her chair and enjoyed the peace and quiet of the house. Abby realized that she was home alone with her father, while her mother had gone to a friend's house for dinner. This seemed strange to Abby, because she knew she shouldn't be home alone. She was only 12 years old. As she entered the kitchen, Abby called her father's mobile phone when she heard a noise coming from the backyard. As she approached the back door, Abby's heart began to beat faster. What if her father wasn't there? What if he was trying to fend off an intruder? But she soon confirmed that her father was still home. He was simply working on the shed. Abby breathed a sigh of relief. But Abby's relief was short-lived, for her father had never been working in the shed at this time of night before. She had just closed the back door and headed out into the garden when her father suddenly appeared, seemingly noticing the sound of the door closing. "Hello, my love," he said, approaching Abby. "What are you doing out in such cold weather? Shall we come in? Would you like some hot chocolate?" Abby was no fool. Abby then followed her father into the house. They enjoyed the best hot chocolate she had ever had. At the dinner table, her father had prepared for her. "How did you get to the cabin, Dad?" she finally asked. He seemed to think that this was a mundane enough excuse to distract her, but he didn't know that when she had visited the cabin a week earlier, it had been spotlessly clean and tidy. Abby's mother returned soon after, and together they tucked Abby into bed. Out of respect for her parents, Abby avoided mentioning the cabin. The first thing she noticed was that the alarm clock had struck midnight. She didn't expect the lights to be on, but she wanted to check. She was surprised to see that the lights were on. It seemed her father had returned to the cabin while her mother was asleep. Abby's curiosity was piqued. Not only had she been lying to her mother, but her father had been lying to her as well. Abby stalked out her room to see if her mother was still in her bedroom. Abby quietly walked out the back door and down the stairs. Learning from her previous mistake, she tried not to rattle the door this time. She closed it quietly and slowly before making her way towards the cabin. She had walked halfway through the garden when she heard the sounds of her father working. When she reached the shed, she found a garbage bag in front of the window. She couldn't see what was inside, as she could only see a shadow. She listened quietly, curious to know what her father was doing. She could guess what he was making from the sounds alone. Maybe he was on the phone. He couldn't hear him speak clearly, and all Abby could catch was the sound of laughter every now and then. If he was having fun, why was he hiding what he was doing from his wife and kids? The second sound was far from reassuring. It sent shivers down Abby's spine. She didn't want to be anywhere near the cabin anymore when she heard it, and hurried back inside, not even thinking about gently closing the door behind her. Abby gasped as her father left the cabin and entered the house. She heard his creaking footsteps down the stairs, and her heart beat faster as he got closer. Eventually, he reached her room and passed out. Abby stayed as still as possible, closing her eyes and pretending to be asleep. She felt the warmth of his breath on her cheek as he peeked into the side of her face to see if she was really asleep. The next morning, there was a disagreement between Abby and her father. Abby was aware of it, but her mother was completely unaware. Throughout the day, she couldn't stop thinking about that horrible sound. Her father hadn't come home yet, so it was perfect timing. Abby was playing in the yard while her mother was in the kitchen preparing dinner. She then went outside and pretended to do something in the backyard. When Abby noticed that her mother was no longer paying attention, she stopped playing and carefully made her way to the shed. But Abby wasn't going to give up. She went inside the house and knew the garden tools were in the shed. So she asked if she could use her mother's little buggy to play in the garden. Her mother allowed her to do so and helped her get the buggy from the shed. She was visibly surprised when Abby told her the shed was locked. She tried to open it herself, but was confused when it was locked and wouldn't open. "Damn it, Connor," she muttered as she searched for the key tray and hurried back into the house. She felt the need to act quickly, as her father might turn up while Abby was waiting, and she didn't want to go near the shed when he got home. Emily stood still, unsure whether to go in or stay home and hope her mother wouldn't say anything. She knew her mother wasn't good at keeping secrets, especially ones she wasn't aware of. She opened the door slowly, quietly, just as her father got out of the truck and walked to the front door. She heard the small fence separating them give way slightly. She heard her father unlock the front door. Although it was dark inside the shed, Abby was too scared to turn on the light. Then, suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her leg and cried out. She ran out of the shed just as her parents came into the backyard, realizing that they had heard her. "Abby, what's wrong? What are you doing out there? Are you okay?" her father asked, running to the entrance of the shed and quickly closing the door. Abby had no shoes on and could have easily stepped in there. "Connor, didn't you finish cleaning up the shed?" Her mother confronted her father. "I thought you'd finished cleaning up everything," he said, sounding genuinely apologetic. "I'm sorry, Abby, but what on earth were you doing out there? Did you see something or run into something?" her father whispered. "I was just playing," she insisted. She didn't want to worry him anymore. Since that night, Abby's father has always kept the key to the shed with him. However, Abby has been watching her father's every move. He has been acting strangely around the shed, so there must be a reason. Abby is sure that her father will be changing his job duties soon, as she is very distressed after getting her foot stuck on a nail at work. Abby knew that her father would have a few beers every Friday and fall asleep. So she always got ready on Fridays. When the clock struck exactly 00:00, she pretended to be asleep and started to walk quietly towards her parents' bedroom. However, she was surprised to see her mother asleep. In that case, she thought that her father was most likely dozing off in front of the TV, so she quietly went downstairs. The floorboards creaked, and Abby felt her heart pounding in her chest. She closed her eyes, expecting her father to turn and see her, but all she heard was the sound of his loud snoring. Fearing he would wake up, she crouched down behind his chair. Her keys were dangling from their keyring and half out of her pocket. The moment she heard her parents' bedroom door close, Abby grabbed the keys from the floor and ran outside. Binding bonds through beautiful tales. Thank you for watching.